Breathe deeply. Release tension. Floating upward, we reach the magnetosphere, this invisible dipolar shield, forged by a spinning molten core, stretches far into space. Behold this vast protective cocoon, cradling our fragile world in silence. Consider the geodynamo. Beneath you, molten iron swirls, driven by internal heat. These invisible flux lines stretch thousands of kilometers, deflecting solar wind. This shield forms a silent teardrop, protecting us. It is truly rhythmic. Consider how the poles wander, drifting distances annually. They aren't fixed, occasionally flipping entirely. This reflects the geodynamo's molten iron convection, a slow liquid dance deep within the hot core, guiding your steady, silent descent. Observe the bow shock, where solar winds slow. Particles flow through the magneto's heath, swirling as plasma. At the magnetopores, pressures balance. Here, magnetic reconnection silently transfers energy, maintaining our rhythmic, protective cosmic cradle. Consider the Van Allen belts, nested tori of trapped particles. Beyond, the magnetotail stretches millions of kilometers. Westward ring currents pulse. The plasmasphere holds low-energy ions, while the magnetopores marks our pressure-balanced, rhythmic sanctuary. Breathe. Notice the South Atlantic anomaly's thinning dip. Surprisingly, birds navigate using magnetoreception. Seafloor rocks archive ancient reversals through paleomagnetism. Birkeland currents flow through polar cusps, while the geodynamo's slow cooling sustains this quiet, rhythmic shell. Consider the auroras. Oxygen glows green, nitrogen crimson. The magnetotail trails like a windsock. Crustal rocks record ancient history. Electrons spiral along field lines, congregating at the stronger poles. It's a rhythmic, cosmic record. Consider the magnetosphere's teardrop shape. Solar winds compress its sunward face while stretching the tail. These field lines vibrate like plucked strings, creating rhythmic Alphen waves. This invisible hum transports energy, easing you deeper now. Notice the magnetos heath, where solar plasma slows. Within, flux ropes twist, storing energy. The dense plasmasphere rotates with Earth, while geomagnetic jerks shift field. It is a truly rhythmic, slow, complex, and protective cosmic dance. You might wonder about whistlers, radio waves gliding through ionized gas. Sea turtles map this grid. Past the Curie point, magnetism vanishes. Declination shifts as telluric currents pulse. The magnetic wake trails, a perpetual phantom. Here's something remarkable. Ionospheric dynamos create currents 100 kilometers high. Consider the equatorial electrojet pulsing daily. Earth's L-shells map magnetic paths, while solar cycles cyclically modulate the shield. Core convection sustains this constant, tranquil hum. Magnetic portals open every 8 minutes, tethering us to the sun. Meanwhile, the inner core super-rotates, spinning faster than the mantle. Magnetite in lava freezes into ancient compasses. Field lines form closed, rhythmic, quiet loop. Consider the ring current's westward ion drift, creating a subtle counterfield. Secular variation slowly shifts the pole. Meanwhile, PC waves pulse rhythmically, while the stable magnetic equator guides migrating life. Breathe and drift. Consider the dip equator. Here, field lines lay perfectly horizontal. Magnetotactic bacteria navigate using microscopic mineral compasses. Flux transfer tethers us to stellar winds every 8 minutes. while periodic vibrations mimic a heartbeat. Consider the magnetotail, stretching millions of kilometers. You might wonder about reconnection. Lines snap, releasing plasma. This energy triggers polar rain. Such cyclic tension restores the balance, while neutral sheets divide opposing polarities. Deeply breathe. Here's something remarkable. Birkeland currents carry millions of amperes poleward. Consider how magnetic lines stretch like elastic. The magnetopause balances solar pressure. Cold plasma drains upward silently. Molten iron churns, maintaining this rhythmic protective cradle. Here's something remarkable. The South Atlantic anomaly lets radiation dip. Notice the plasma pause. Reversals take millennia. Helical flux ropes twist. The field oscillates gently, mirroring the core's churn. Everything moves with measured, hushed clarity. Breathe. Follow the magnetosheath as it buffets the solar wind. Deep inside, the plasmasphere rotates in synchrony with the crust. Magnetic lines undulate. Ions spiral poleward along unseen conduits. This is a steady, resonant, cosmic anchor. Here's something remarkable. The plasma sheet stores energy. When reconnection occurs, flux ropes twist softly, fueling the shimmering auroral glow. Alfvén's theorem guides this plasma flow. Magnetic pressure balances the solar wind, safeguarding your still rest. Consider the polar cusps, allowing direct entry. The magnetopause balances pressure while telluric currents pulse through the crust. Field lines vibrate rhythmically. It is a truly remarkable, protective, and perfectly balanced, silent, and cosmic cradle. Consider the Curie point. In cooling lava, magnetite freezes, locking a compass in stone. You might wonder how oceanic ridges archive primal history. Inclination shifts as core convection patiently rotates our indigo shield. Ponder how the magnetopause balances solar pressure. Within, the plasmasphere rotates alongside us. Van Allen belts trap charged ions. Flux ropes twist, guiding the flow. In the magnetosheath, particles slow. Everything is a harmonic hum. Consider how the magnetotail stores energy before snapping. This reconnection triggers substorms, causing the plasma sheet to thin. Ions then inject earthward, brightening auroras as energy dissipates. This is our planet's steady, patient cadence. Breathe. Consider. The ring currents westward drift. Chorus emissions sound like mourning birds. Geomagnetic jerks shift intensity. Telluric currents pulse. L-shells map our shield. The plasmapause marks a quiet, rhythmic, and protective, unique, ancient cosmic boundary. Here's something remarkable. The bow shock sits 13 radii away. The magnetotail spans millions of kilometers. Plasma sheets store energy. Magnetic waves pulse rhythmically. Core convection drives this shield. Magnetopause boundaries breathe. Reconnexion triggers auroras. Here's something remarkable. The liquid core's churning iron creates a dynamo. This shield varies over eons as poles wander annually. Iron freezes onto the inner core, sustaining this shield. Consider these rhythmic, quiet fluctuations now. Consider the equatorial electrojet pulsing above. Magnetic reconnection snaps lines, releasing plasma. Alfvén waves ripple through the magnetosphere. Solar winds compress the sunward face. Our magnetopause breathes rhythmically, protecting us in this steady, quiet void. You might wonder how the inner core solidifies, releasing latent heat. Observe how L-shells map distance. Whistler waves glide through plasma. Magnetosonic pulses ripple. Convection churns molten iron. This measured, harmonious cycle maintains our sanctuary. Consider the bow shock compressing solar wind. Here's something remarkable. Magnetic reconnection resets lines. The plasmasphere rotates with Earth. Magnetotactic bacteria feel this pull. Flux ropes twist. Birkeland currents pulse. This remains an ancient shield. Consider the magnetopores balancing solar winds. Here's something remarkable. Chorus waves mimic morning birds. The plasma pores holds ions. The tail stretches millions of kilometers. Reconnection snaps lines. Drift into this rhythmic, ancient, and protective pulse. Secular variation shifts the poles slowly. Iron churns deep below. The dipole moment ebbs. Magnetosonic waves oscillate rhythmically. Elastic field lines stretch. Ions drift westward, forming currents. This remains a harmonic, steady, quiet cosmic cycle. Consider portals opening every 8 minutes. Here's something remarkable. Plasma hiss resonates within the plasmasphere. Notice the neutral sheet. Reconnection snaps lines. The geodynamo churns. Magnetopores pressure balances this rhythmic, harmonic, dipolar sanctuary. Breathe now. Consider the South Atlantic anomaly, where our shield thins. Polar rain falls as electrons precipitate. The magnetosheath buffets solar wind. Declination shifts. Inclination tilts. Field lines vibrate rhythmically. Drift now into deep, quiet sleep. Breathe. Consider the magnetopores breathing against solar winds. Astonishing chorus waves sound like dawn. The plasmasphere rotates rhythmically. The magnetosheath buffets particles. Van Allen belts trap iron. Plasma sheet energy stores softly. This hushed refuge remains steady. Crystals align, poles wander, the geodynamo churns. PC waves pulse, non-dipole fields drift. Secular acceleration occurs. Magnetotactic life navigates. The core cool. Drift into this steady, ancient sanctuary. Observe the universe's quiet, rhythmic, protective clockwork. Consider magnetic jerks. They are accelerations of the field. Fluid iron stirs the core dynamo. Ions drift westward, creating ring currents. The magnetopores balances solar pressure. Flux ropes tether us to the sun. Breathe deeply. Consider the PC waves pulsing through our plasma shroud like a harmonic, measured heartbeat. These geomagnetic pulsations originate far above, categorized by their constant periods. They resonate within the magnetosphere, guiding us into deeper stillness. Notice the magnetotail. Here's something remarkable. Solar winds pull it into a comet-like shape. Reconnection snaps magnetic lines, releasing plasma sheet energy. Rhythmic pulses guide auroral ovals. Rest in this silent, protective, and balanced symmetry. Consider the cold, donut-shaped plasmasphere. It co-rotates with Earth's spin. The plasmapore's boundary shifts. Radio hiss resonates within. This reservoir refills from the ionosphere below. It remains a steady, rhythmic, and protective quiet cradle. Observe, consider declination. North angles shift slowly. Molten iron stirs the geodynamo, sustaining our shield. Rocks archive past reversals. Animals sense this invisible grid. These rhythmic, ancient cycles safely guide your deep, quiet rest. Breathe now. Consider the Coriolis effect, twisting rising iron into helical columns. These engines sustain our shield. Magnetic buoyancy lifts flux tubes upward. Secular variation reshapes this rhythmic sanctuary. Observe this quiet, steady, protective dance. Notice the magnetosheath slowing plasma. Van Allen belts trap ions. The plasma pores marks a density shift. Chorus waves sound like morning birds. Reconnection releases energy. Observe the magneto-tail. Rest in this protective, ancient, steady symmetry. Consider the ionosphere's Pedersen currents. The Hall effect steers ions across field lines. These circuits connect to space via Birkeland currents, powering auroras. Earth's spin sustains this rhythmic shield. Breathe in this silent energy. Consider the geodynamo's persistence, unlike barren Mars. Magnetic field lines guide migrating whales across oceans. Schumann resonances pulse like a heartbeat. Rest very deeply now within this rhythmic, ancient, and protective, indigo, silent, cosmic sanctuary. Here's something remarkable. Magnetic declination shifts daily. Notice the plasma pores density. Reconnection snaps lines. The inner core spins faster. PC waves pulse. This cadenced, shimmering cradle remains constant. Breathe in the ancient velvet energy. Magneto-tail flux ropes twist, storing energy. Remarkably, reconnection snaps these lines, channeling plasma toward poles. This creates shimmering auroral ovals. Observe this cyclic, custodial, primordial dance. Breathe now into the hushed, weightless, and comforting void. Consider geomagnetic jerks. Secular variation moves poles. The inner core rotates faster. Alphen waves ripple. Magnetotactic bacteria navigate. This ancient geodynamo sustains your own silent, protective, deep, quiet, steady, and remarkably peaceful, nocturnal, still rest. Consider basalt cooling, locking in fossil magnetism. The polar wind is a silent ion outflow. Magnetohydrodynamic waves ripple, transporting energy. The sun modulates our shield. Earth's inner core grows, sustaining this refuge. Breathe. Consider the magnetopore's breathing. Here's something remarkable. The ring current drifts westward while reconnection snaps field lines. The plasmasphere co-rotates with Earth's spin. Neutral sheets divide magnetic polarities. Rest very deeply within this ancient sanctuary. Consider polar cusps. They funnel solar particles. Remarkably, ring currents drift westward. Auroras shimmer as energy dissipates. Reconnection snaps field lines. Core growth fuels this geodynamo. This steady sanctuary remains rhythmic. Breathe in quiet rest. Consider the magneto-tail stretching millions of kilometers. Here's something remarkable. Magnetic lines snap and reconnect, surging energy into the plasma sheet. This fuels the auroral oval's steady glow. Observe this rhythmic, ancient cosmic cycle. The magnetopause breathes. Remarkably, Van Allen belts trap ions. Ring currents drift. PC waves pulse. Reconnection snaps lines. Core convection sustains our shield. The inner core spin. Drift now into this ancient, steady, cosmic rest. Consider magnetopore's ripples. Remarkably, Kelvin-Helmholtz instabilities roll like cosmic waves. These vortices mix solar plasma into boundary layers, sustaining our cradle through rhythmic churning. Breathe deeply in this quiet, steady, protective energy. Rest well now. Here's something remarkable. Protective shielding deflects stellar rays. Field intensity peaks at the poles. Torsional oscillations ripple through the core. Magnetosonic waves pulse. Our magnetic pressure balances solar wind. Reconnection happens rhythmically. Breathe slowly, rest. Consider telluric currents pulsing underground. Remarkably, the plasmasphere forms long tails. Kilometric radiation hums. The inner core rotates freely. Alphen waves ripple. These rhythmic shifts sustain us. Breathe deeply into this quiet, ancient, steady void. Consider how field lines are frozen into flowing plasma. This Alfvén theorem guides energy. Meanwhile, the magnetopause forms a thin current sheet. PC waves pulse at specific frequencies. This rhythmic protective shield remains steady. Consider the westward drift. Magnetic buoyancy lifts flux tubes. Torsional oscillations ripple. You might wonder how flux expulsion churns the tangent cylinder's iron. This magnetostrophic balance of non-dipole fields remains a rhythmic, protective pulse. Consider the magnetotail's lobes, divided by a neutral sheet. Plasma sheets store energy before reconnection. Magnetic bays pulse rhythmically. Solar winds compress our shield. Breathe into this protective, ancient, and steady cosmic cycle. Consider the Van Allen belts. Here's something curious. Protons nest inside while electrons spiral outside. Whistler waves scatter them. Magnetic mirroring makes ions bounce between poles. This shielding remains a rhythmic, constant sanctuary. Consider the North Pole wandering 50 kilometers annually as iron flows. The bow shock slows solar winds to subsonic speeds. Magnetosheath plasma swirls. Ring currents circle. Auroral ovals glow. Breathe in this ancient, protective sanctuary. Consider the magnetopause, where pressure balances. Remarkable reconnection snaps lines, releasing energy. Polar cusps funnel ions. Field tension restores order. Ions spiral in gyroradii within the magnetosheath. Everything is truly rhythmic. Rest well now. Breathe. Consider the teardrop magnetosphere. Solar winds compress the front, stretching the tail millions of kilometers. Magnetic portals open frequently. Reconnection snaps lines, while molten iron sustains this rhythmic, steady, ancient, and protective shield. Breathe. Consider the South Atlantic anomaly, where our shield thins. You might wonder how inclination angles guide birds. Magnetite in rocks archives reversals. This geodynamo's slow, rhythmic churn maintains our ancient, steady sanctuary. Breathe now. Remarkably, ring currents drift westward. Consider chorus waves sounding like dawn birds. The plasma pause marks a sharp density shift. Magnetopause boundaries pulsate. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing energy. Core iron churn. Drift into this magnetic embrace. Here's something remarkable. The magnetotail stores solar energy. At the X-point, field lines snap, flipping polarity within the neutral sheet. Ions converge, thickening the plasma sheet. This rhythmic cycle fuels distant, shimmering auroras. Now, consider the polar wind's ion outflow. It replenishes our shield. Remarkably, magnetic pressure deflects solar winds. Inner belts trap protons, while the tail stretches millions of kilometers. This geodynamo sustains rhythmic, quiet safety. Breathe. Consider seafloor stripes recording ancient reversals. The inner core grows as iron crystallizes, fueling the geodynamo. Magnetosonic pulses ripple rhythmically, while oxygen glows green. This protective sanctuary remains steady, peaceful, and silent. Breathe deeply now. Consider field lines vibrating like plucked strings. These ultra-low waves pulse rhythmically. Higher plasma density slows this tempo. Energy flows via Birkeland currents, lighting polar skies. Everything moves with the measured, ancient, protective clockwork. Breathe. Consider Whistler waves gliding like falling tones. Magnetotails stretch millions of kilometers. Iron churns the geodynamo. Belts trap ions. Reconnection snaps lines. Oxygen glows green. Poles wander. Breathe in this rhythmic, protective, ancient, steady sanctuary. Consider the colors. Oxygen glows emerald while nitrogen turns crimson. Ring currents drift westward. The plasmasphere co-rotates silently. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing stored energy. This celestial shield maintains a constant, quiet hum. Breathe deeply. Consider the Lorentz force guiding ions. Outer core convection fuels the geodynamo. Magnetic pressure balances solar wind at the magnetopores. Reconnection snaps field lines, releasing plasma. This rhythmic shield remains perfectly steady. Breathe patiently now. Consider the South Atlantic anomaly's thinness. Geomagnetic jerks shift intensity while solar winds compress our teardrop shield. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing plasma. These rhythmic cycles sustain our quiet sanctuary. Rest in this ancient hum. Consider this. Portals open every 8 minutes. Electrons fall as polar rain. Ring currents drift westward. L shells guide cosmic ions. Secular variation shifts poles. This timeless custodial sanctuary remains unfailing. Pause and rest. Observe the bow shock's subsonic wind. Remarkably, the magnetopause sits 10 radii out, balancing pressure. Watch Kelvin Helmholtz vortices rolling. Magnetosheath plasma swirls. Field lines drape over the sunward face. This shield remains rhythmic. Breathe. Consider the inner core growing annually. Here's something remarkable. Latent heat fuels the geodynamo's liquid iron. Cold plasma donuts co-rotate. Elastic field lines vibrate. Oxygen glows green. Rest in this rhythmic, ancient sanctuary. Here's something remarkable. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing energy. Consider kilometric radiation humming into space. You might wonder how telluric currents pulse through oceans as ions spiral along L shells. This sanctuary remains rhythmic. Rest. Consider the South Atlantic anomaly where belts dip low. Remarkably, the neutral sheet divides polarities. Core convection sustains this. Reconnection snaps lines. Subsonic winds swirl. Secular variation shifts poles. Plasma sheets store energy. Breathe. Consider sea turtles navigating via magnetoreception. Remarkably, the plasmasphere co-rotates with us. Alphen waves pulse melodically. The magnetopause breathes. The geodynamo sustains this shield. Magnetic jerks shift intensity. L shells map these enduring lines. Rest deeply. Consider this. Alph waves pulse rhythmically. Ions bounce between magnetic mirrors. Remarkably, the ring current flows westward. Latent heat fuels the churning geodynamo. This ancient protective shield remains steady. Breathe deeply into the shimmering quiet. Consider the magnetosheath where plasma slows. Remarkably, Birkeland currents tether poles. Secular variation shifts intensity. Chorus waves mimic birds. Field lines vibrate rhythmically. This dipolar shield remains steady. Breathe deeply into this ancient protective sanctuary. Consider X points where reconnection snaps lines. Remarkably, non-dipole fields drift westward, while telluric currents pulse underground. Polar cusps funnel ions. Inner cores superrotate. Magnetic pressure balances wind. Rest in this rhythmic, ancient sanctuary. Consider the magnetopores shifting under pressure. Plasma hiss resonates within the shroud. Hall currents flow as polar rain falls. Latent heat powers the dynamo. Magnetosonic waves pulse. Conjugate points align. Rest in this rhythmic sanctuary. Consider the plasma sheet thinning. It snaps. Surging depolarization fronts earthward. Remarkably, high field curvature scatters ions, while cold particles outflow from the ionosphere. Magneto's heath turbulence swirls. Rest now in this enduring hushed sanctuary. Consider the magnetopore's breathing. Remarkably, Alphen waves ripple like a cosmic heartbeat. Electrons spiral along field lines. The geodynamo churns molten iron. Reconnection snaps lines. Ions drift westward, rest in this ancient, steady, quiet, protective void. Here's something remarkable. The South Atlantic anomaly thins. Declination shifts daily. Telluric currents pulse. Auroral ovals glow. Reconnection snaps lines. The geodynamo churns iron. Magnetopore's pressure balances everything. This perpetual shield remains constant. Breathe patiently. Consider the equatorial electrojet, a daytime current flowing east. This narrow stream intensifies as the sun rises. Remarkably, L-shells map magnetic distance, while particles mirror between poles. This rhythmic resonance safeguards our silent world. Breathe. Core superrotation spins faster than Earth. Flux ropes tether us sunward. Plumes stretch from the plasmasphere. Birkeland currents flow poleward. Magneto's heath turbulence swirls. This enduring geodynamo sustains our resonant refuge. Breathe deeply now. Consider that magnetic reversals happen randomly. Our shield stays weaker at the equator. Solar winds compress the shroud while the North Pole drifts. Bees sense these energy-dense lines. A sun-hot core sustains this rhythm. Consider the magnetotail's comet-like shape. Remarkably, reconnection unites lines, releasing stored plasma. Substorms trigger auroral ovals. Magnetotactic bacteria navigate. The geodynamo churn. Our magnetic equator stays horizontal. Breathe deeply in this quiet, rhythmic, protective sanctuary. Consider the magneto's heath slowing solar plasma. Remarkably, portals open every 8 minutes. The inner core super-rotates. Whistler waves glide. Ring currents drift westward. Ions mirror between poles. Alphen waves ripple. This geodynamo sustains you. Consider the slot region. It remains remarkably clear of ions. Magnetotail lobes house thin plasma. Observe geomagnetic pulsations rippling rhythmically. Field lines compress sunward. Polar rain falls. Core convection churns. Rest in this unfailing sanctuary. Consider the magnetopore's breathing against solar winds. Remarkably, the plasmasphere co-rotates while Van Allen belts trap ions. Reconnection snaps lines, fueling auroras. Ion churns below. Secular variation shifts poles. This remains rhythmic. Breathe. Consider flux expulsion. Magnetic fields are pushed upward. Remarkably, non-dipole components drift westward. This shield prevents atmospheric stripping. The sun-hot core sustains this geodynamo. Observe this rhythmic sanctuary. Breathe deeply into the steady, quiet void. Consider the magnetotail's length. Remarkably, the neutral sheet divides magnetic lobes. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing plasma. Chorus waves mimic birds, while westward ring currents drift. L-shells map this shield. Rest in this rhythm. Breathe. Consider the magnetosphere's tail. Here's something remarkable. It stretches past the moon. Solar winds push this comet-shaped shroud. You might wonder how trapped particles mirror between poles, creating auroras within our rhythmic, steady, patient sanctuary. Consider this. The inner core superrotates. Here's something remarkable. The magnetopause balances solar pressure. Notice the plasmapause's sharp density drop. Field lines have tension. Geomagnetic jerks shift intensity. Birkeland currents flow poleward rhythmically and patiently. Consider the geodynamo's ion churn. Remarkably, the South Atlantic anomaly thins. Animals use magnetoreception to navigate. Solar wind compresses the face. Ring currents drift westward. Reconnection snaps lines. This rhythmic sanctuary remains steady. Breathe. You might wonder about substorms releasing energy. Noteworthy dipolarization fronts surge earthward. Field-aligned currents connect the ionosphere. Plasmaspheric plumes stretch outward. Geomagnetic pulsations ripple. This periodic refuge remains steady. Just breathe now. Consider mid-ocean ridges. Basalt cooling here archives magnetic flips. Remarkably, the plasma mantle flows inside our boundary. Magnetic pressure balances solar breath. Magnetic dip fluctuates. This harmonic primordial dynamo guides your silken, quiet, profound rest. Consider this. The tail stretches millions of kilometers. Remarkably, magnetic portals open frequently, tethering us to the sun. Solar winds compress our shield while the geodynamo churns. Auroras glow emerald. Drift into this rhythmic sanctuary. Consider telluric currents pulsing underground. Remarkably, the plasmasphere co-rotates with us. L shells map magnetic distance, while reconnection snaps lines. Magnetotactic life navigates this grid. The geodynamo churns. Breathe into this rhythmic, ancient, protective cosmic sanctuary. Notice the magnetopores balancing solar pressure. Remarkably, westward ring currents drift, while chorus waves sound like morning birds. Molten iron churns the geodynamo, sustaining our rhythmic shield. L shells map lines. Breathe deeply. Consider this. The South Atlantic anomaly thins. You might wonder how the core super rotates. Portals open every 8 minutes. Ion plumes stretch outward. Particles mirror between poles. This geodynamo sustains periodic, quiet rest. Breathe. Consider the core's heat, 6,000 degrees Celsius. This warmth drives convection, sustaining our shield. Helical iron columns stir the geodynamo, creating rhythmic pulsations. This shielding prevents atmospheric stripping, guarding our patient, protective inner harbor. Consider this. Geomagnetic jerks shift intensity. Remarkably, the inner core super-rotates. You might wonder how telluric currents pulse, or how flux transfer events tether us sunward. This geodynamo remains rhythmic. Rest now in quiet safety. Consider the magnetopores. Remarkably, chorus waves sound like birds. The plasmapore's density drops. Field lines have tension. Reconnection snaps. Core ion churns. Ring currents drift westward. Portals open sunward. Breathe in this ancient rhythmic sanctuary. Consider how Schumann resonances pulse above, while westward declination shifts slowly. Core ion flows at millimeters per second. Magnetic lines possess tension. The mantle allows diffusion. Portional oscillations ripple. Breathe in this custodial silent void. Consider this. The magnetopores is the boundary where solar pressure balances our shield. Remarkably, cold plasma plumes stretch outward. Magnetosonic waves ripple while reconnection snaps flux tube. Telluric currents pulse underground. Breathe very deeply. Consider the magnetotail's comet-like silhouette stretching past the moon. Here's something remarkable. Reconnection snaps field lines at the neutral sheet, surging plasma. This rhythmic, silent cycle sustains the permanent auroral oval. Breathe deeply into this. Remarkably, inner belts trap protons while electrons spiral outside. Consider the plasma pore's density shift. Birkeland currents tether poles. Subsonic magnetosheath winds swirl. Magnetosonic pulses ripple. This geodynamo sustains a harmonic, quiet, ancient protection. Breathe now. Consider the geodynamo. The Coriolis effect twists molten iron. Watch magnetic lines freeze into plasma. The magnetopores balances pressure. Lorentz forces deflect winds. Inclination shifts. Intensity varies. Breathe in this steady, patient, enduring, rhythmic harbor. Consider chorus waves. They sound like birds. Remarkably, ring currents drift westward. The plasma pores marks a sharp density drop. L shells map distance. Reconnection snaps lines. Polar rain falls. Rest in this rhythmic, ancient sanctuary. Breathe. Consider the South Atlantic anomaly. Here, our shield thins. Remarkably, geomagnetic jerks shift intensity. Birds navigate via magnetoreception. Secular variation moves poles. Magnetosonic waves ripple rhythmically. Hall currents flow. Breathe in this ancient sanctuary. Consider the bow shock where solar winds slow. Notice reconnection snaps field lines, releasing energy. Westward ring currents carry oxygen ions. Plasmaspheric hiss resonates softly. Polar rain falls. Kelvin-Helmholtz vortices roll. Rest in this hush. Remarkably, inner core crystallization fuels the geodynamo. Slot regions remain empty. Plumes stretch from the plasmasphere. Magnetic jerks shift intensity. Pedersen currents flow. Reconnection snaps line. Rest in this rhythmic, steady sanctuary tonight. Breathe. Now, magnetic portals open every 8 minutes, tethering us to the sun. Remarkably, plasmaspheric plumes stretch outward. The neutral sheet divides polarities. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing energy. Westward ring currents drift. L shells map this perpetual sanctuary. Consider this. The magnetotail stretches past the moon. Remarkably, reconnection snaps lines, releasing plasma. Westward ring currents drift while plasmaspheric plumes stretch. ULF waves pulse rhythmically. L shells map these lines. Rest in this sanctuary. Observe the South Atlantic anomaly's thinning dip. Remarkably, magnetic declination shifts as the inner core superrotates. Magnetotactic life navigates this grid. Telluric currents pulse, while geomagnetic pulsations ripple periodically. Rest within this ancient sanctuary. Consider the self-sustaining geodynamo, powered by latent heat. Remarkably, magnetic buoyancy lifts flux tubes. Hall currents cross field lines. Pedersen currents connect them to the ionosphere. This rhythmic shield remains constant. Breathe into quiet rest. Consider the plasma pore's density drop. Remarkably, the inner belt traps protons while the outer holds electrons. An ion fountain sprays oxygen upward as magnetospheric hiss resonates and minerals record past poles. Everything moves tranquilly now. Consider the magnetopores. Remarkably, flux transfer events tether us sunward every 8 minutes. Kelvin-Helmholtz vortices roll like cosmic waves. Hall currents flow as field lines vibrate rhythmically. Rest in this steady, protective refuge. Breathe. Consider L shells mapping distance. Remarkably, declination shifts daily. Secular variation moves poles annually. The inner core superrotates. Animals use magnetoreception, This geodynamo sustains this rhythmic sanctuary. Breathe in this ancient, steady protection. Consider magnetic pressure balancing solar winds. Remarkably, Kelvin Helmholtz vortices roll across the magnetopause. Plasmaspheric hiss resonates. Magnetosonic waves ripple through the neutral sheath. This geodynamo sustains our periodic refuge. Breathe in this primordial shield. Magnetic reconnection snaps field lines, releasing plasma. Remarkably, oxygen ions surge along field-aligned currents. The magnetopause breathes against solar pressure while molten iron churns below. This geodynamo remains a rhythmic, protective sanctuary. Breathe. Remarkably, the inner core super-rotates faster than the mantle. Magnetic mirroring bounces ions between poles. Westward ring currents drift and telluric currents pulse. Pressure balances solar wind. This geodynamo sustains our fluid, celestial sanctuary. Breathe. Consider the Bow-Shock's subsonic transition. Remarkably, chorus waves chirp while the plasma pores traps ions. Reconnection snaps field lines. The magnetotail stretches as the geodynamo churn. Rest in this rhythmic custodial sanctuary. Breathe. Consider the South Atlantic anomaly dipping low. Remarkably, magnetic poles drift 55 kilometers annually. Plasma sheets store hot ions. Reconnection triggers electron injections. L-shells map these lines. Schumann resonances hum rhythmically. Rest deeply now. Consider this. Magnetite crystals in bees' abdomens align with this grid. Remarkably, flux transfer events open portals sunward. Westward ring currents drift. The plasma pores marks a density cliff. This geodynamo remains a rhythmic sanctuary. Consider Birkeland currents tethering space to Earth. Remarkably, Region 1 currents flow into the ionosphere, exerting magnetic stress. You might wonder how plasma convection maps footprints onto poles. This geodynamo sustains rhythmic, quiet rest. Breathe. Consider magnetic pressure balancing solar wind. Remarkably, tail reconnection surges plasma earthward. Notice PC5 waves pulsing metered beats. Hall currents flow through ionosphere, while L-shells map our shield. Molten iron churns below. Breathe deeply now. Consider dawn's thick boundary. Remarkably, magnetopause ripples roll. Notice plasmaspheric plumes stretching. Westward ring currents drift. Magnetos heath turbulence swirls. Breathe in this rhythmic, ancient, and protective sanctuary. You are perfectly safe. Consider the slot region, remarkably clear of ions. Polar winds spray oxygen upward, while magnetic mirroring bounces particles between poles. Pulsations ripple through L-shells. This geodynamo remains a rhythmic, protective, and ancient cradle. Breathe. Consider molten iron churning. Remarkably, hot flux tubes rise. You might wonder how this engine sustains our shield. Green oxygen glows as light moves rhythmically. Observe this steady, ancient, and protective harbor. Consider the magnetosphere. It fluctuates with solar breath. Remarkably, the South Atlantic anomaly thins, affecting satellites. Solar winds compress the dayside. Lines freeze into plasma. Reconnection snaps flux. This geodynamo remains steady. Breathe deeply. Consider the magnetopause. It marks our pressure balance. Remarkably, Kelvin Helmholtz vortices roll like cosmic waves. Notice plasmaspheric plumes stretching. Westward ring currents drift. L-shells map distance. Magnetosonic pulses ripple. Breathe in this indigo cradle. Consider oceanic induction. Salt water creates subtle fields. Remarkably, Rocks archive magnetism. Below the Curie point, minerals lock. Secular acceleration shifts intensity. Magnetic diffusion occurs. The dipole fluctuates. Rest in this rhythmic, patient sanctuary. Breathe. Consider the magnetotails reservoir. Remarkably, reconnection at X-lines surges plasma earthward. Notice polar winds escaping. Plasmaspheric plumes stretch as Birkeland currents link our skies. ULF waves pulse rhythmically. Rest in this quiet, ancient sanctuary. Breathe. Consider the geodynamo's self-exciting engine. Remarkably, magnetic lines possess tension, guiding frozen flux. You might wonder how ions gyrate in circles, or how geomagnetic jerks shift intensity. Deep rest in this constant, protective, silken sanctuary. Consider this. Magnetic polarity occasionally flips. Molten iron stays hotter than the sun. This teardrop shield compresses under solar winds, while radiation belts trap ions. Grains align, declination shifts, core convection pulse. Drift deeper now. Here's something remarkable. The ring current actually opposes Earth's field, creating a subtle magnetic dip. Consider the plasmasphere's radio hiss, clearing high-energy ions. Molten iron flows 10 kilometers annually, sustaining our rhythmic, quiet sanctuary. Consider this. The inner core superitates. Remarkably, reconnection surges plasma. Whistler waves glide through L. Shells as plumes stretch and ring currents drift. This refuge remains periodic. Rest very deeply in this ancient, harmonious cradle. Consider the magnetostrophic balance. Remarkably, torsional oscillations ripple through molten columns. Magnetic diffusion occurs while the Hall effect steers ions. Convection sustains this geodynamo. Rest deeply in this rhythmic, ancient, and protective sanctuary. Molten core iron flows like water. Magnetized pottery archives ancient history. Consider pearl pulsations vibrating rhythmically. Salmon navigate this grid. Magnetopause expands during solar lulls. Rest in this steady, protective sanctuary. Breathe very deeply now. Consider the magnetopause. Every 8 minutes, portals open. Plumes stretch as ring currents drift westward. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing energy. This geodynamo remains a rhythmic, protective sanctuary. Breathe in this ancient, steady, quiet, and comforting void. Remarkably, the South Atlantic anomaly thins our shield. Consider this. Declination shifts as the geodynamo churns. Magnetotactic bacteria navigate. Alphen waves ripple. Secular variation moves poles. Geomagnetic jerks shift intensity. Rest here in peace. Breathe. Consider the magnetosphere's lobes. Remarkably, magnetic pressure balances solar wind. You might wonder how PC waves pulse. Secular variation shifts the dipole tilt. The plasma mantle flows inside. Rest in this perpetual embrace. Breathe. Consider the neutral sheet dividing lobes. Remarkably, reconnection quietly snaps field lines, releasing energy. Westward ring currents drift while sunward plumes stretch. L shells map distance. This sanctuary remains steady. Breathe in this hush. You might consider the bow shock. It slows solar winds to a subsonic crawl. Within the magneto's heath, plasma swirls. Remarkably, field lines possess tension, weaving this shield as the core crystallizes. Everything is constant. Breathe. Consider the ion fountain. Remarkably, Birkeland currents tether poles. Westward ring currents drift as particles mirror. Plasmaspheric plumes stretch while the slot region stays empty. These geodynamo pulses sustain our rhythmic, protective, and ancient silence. Consider the magnetopause. Remarkably, solar pressure balances our shield here. Field lines act like elastic bands, while the magnetotail stores energy. Particles bounce between poles, trapped. This geodynamo remains rhythmic and steady. Consider this. Core iron flows like water. Remarkably, the magnetotail stretches past the moon. Portals open every 8 minutes. Bacteria navigate via minerals. Core heat rivals the sun's surface. Breathe. This steadfast, foundational, vigilant pulse. Consider pearl pulsations. These oscillations vibrate rhythmically. Remarkably, plasmaspheric hiss clears trapped particles. Reconnection at X-lines shunts plasma. Magnetosonic waves ripple while L-shells map our shield. Magnetos heath plasma swirls. Rest in this velvet refuge. Breathe. Consider this. The dipole field weakens while the geodynamo persists. Remarkably, telluric currents pulse through the lithosphere. You might wonder how magnetic diffusion leaks through the mantle's rocky base. Sécular variation shifts pole. Rest now. Consider the geodynamo's liquid iron. Remarkably, the South Atlantic anomaly thins our shield. Magnetic lines have tension. Reversals happen randomly. Jerks shift intensity. Declination shifts daily. This rhythmic sanctuary remains steady. Breathe, feel safe. Witness the magnetopause balancing stellar pressure. Chorus waves chirp like birds while the plasmasphere co-rotates. Solar winds stretch our tail into a windsock. The neutral sheet divides deep violet lobe. Inhale this persistent, cadenced energy now. Consider the magnetopause's pressure balance. Remarkably, Alphen waves ripple through the plasmasphere. Notice the neutral sheet dividing magnetic lobe. Ring currents drift westward, while telluric currents pulse underground. Breathe deeply in this rhythmic, protective sanctuary. Consider the ionospheric dynamo. High winds push ions to generate electricity. Remarkably, Hall currents flow across field lines. The plasma mantle stores energy, while Pedersen currents link our world sunward. Breathe in this rhythmic shield. Consider magnetic flux ropes twisting. They store energy until reconnection releases plasma. Substorms then trigger polar rain. Observe the inner core rotates faster. This geodynamo remains a rhythmic shield. Rest in this vigilant, comforting void. Consider the tangent cylinder. Iron rotates here. Remarkably, magnetic diffusion leaks through the mantle. The geodynamo cools, non-dipole fields drift, and flux ropes twist. This rhythmic, protective sanctuary remains steady. Breathe. Rest deeply. Remarkably, the magnetopause balances pressure. Ring currents drift westward. Polar rain falls. Portals open. Reconnection snaps. Neutral sheets divide lobes. Core iron churns. This rhythmic geodynamo remains constant. Breathe deeply into this silent, comforting void. Consider the magnetopause vibrating like a drum. Remarkably, Whistler waves glide while the plasmasphere co-rotates. Ring currents drift westward. Ions mirror between poles. The inner core super-rotates. Rest in this melodic, primal, quiet sanctum. Observe magnetic reconnection snapping lines. Remarkably, the neutral sheet divides polarities. Hall currents steer particles. L-shells map our shield. Magnetosonic waves ripple. Molten iron flows below. Rest in this ancient, steady, protective sanctuary. Breathe deeply. You might wonder about plasmasphere's hiss. It clears high-energy ions. Remarkably, polar winds spray oxygen upward. Portals open every 8 minutes, tethering us sunward. Declination shifts as minerals align. Rest in this rhythmic sanctuary. Breathe. Observe how ring currents drift westward. Remarkably, field lines behave like elastic strings, snapping during reconnection. The magnetopause balances pressure while solar winds compress the sunward face. This geodynamo remains rhythmic. Breathe in quiet safety. Consider the Curie point. Cooling minerals freeze ancient magnetism. Magnetic declination shifts daily. Remarkably, plumes stretch. You might wonder how inclination guides life. Secular acceleration occurs. This geodynamo remains persistent. Breathe in this foundational velvet shelter. Consider the magnetotail stretching past the moon. Remarkably, reconnection snaps lines, releasing energy. Westward ring currents drift while the inner core super-rotates. Magnetic pressure balances stellar breath. This rhythmic sanctuary remains very steady. Rest now. Consider magnetic diffusion through the mantle. Remarkably, secular variation shifts the dipole axis. Helical columns rotate as torsional oscillations ripple. This geodynamo, fueled by latent heat, prevents atmospheric stripping. Rest in this sanctuary. You might wonder how bacteria navigate via minerals. Surprisingly, Alfvén waves pulse energy rhythmically. The slot region between belts stays empty. Solar pressure compresses our front. Polar rain falls. This geodynamo sustains our steady sanctuary. Consider the magnetotail's length. It stretches millions of kilometers. Remarkably, magnetic portals open sunward. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing plasma sheet energy. Substorms trigger polar rain. This rhythmic geodynamo remains a constant sanctuary. Breathe deeply. Consider chorus waves chirping like dawn birds within the magnetosphere. Remarkably, reconnection snaps field lines, releasing energy. The plasmasphere co-rotates with Earth's spin. This rhythmic shield remains steady. Breathe into this quiet sanctuary. Consider magnetosonic waves rippling through plasma. Remarkably, field lines behave like elastic strings, snapping during reconnection. The inner core freezes, releasing latent heat. Pressure balances solar winds. Rest in this rhythmic, ancient, and protective sanctuary. Consider this. The inner core super-rotates. Remarkably, reconnection snaps field lines, releasing plasma. Westward ring currents drift while plumes stretch. Intensity jerks shift our shield. These periodic forces maintain our constant, primordial, and custodial sanctuary. Consider ionospheric, solar quiet currents pulsing daily. Remarkably, magnetic diffusivity lets fields leak through the mantle. Observe the equatorial electrojet flowing eastward. Taylor cylinders form within the core. This geodynamo remains a rhythmic, steady sanctuary. Consider pearl pulsations vibrating rhythmically. Remarkably, the plasma pores traps cold ions while ring currents drift westward. Reconnection snaps lines, releasing energy. This geodynamo sustains our constant, melodic sanctuary. Breathe into the deep, indigo rest. Consider magnetostrophic balance, where magnetic forces meet rotation. Remarkably, a high magnetic Reynolds number allows induction to thrive. Intense flux patches drift beneath the mantle. This geodynamo remains a rhythmic, protective sanctuary. Rest deeply now. Consider the outer core's iron. It flows with water-like viscosity. Remarkably, fluidity enables convection via thermal buoyancy. Maxwell's stresses create field line tension. Secular variation shifts intensities rhythmically. This geodynamo remains a rhythmic, unfailing sanctuary. Consider the plasmasphere's co-rotation. Remarkably, its boundary, the plasma pores, is a sharp density cliff. Magnetic portals open every 8 minutes, tethering us to solar winds. This geodynamo remains rhythmic. Rest in this ancient protective silence. Consider whales following magnetic landmarks. Our dipole tilts 11 degrees, while joule heating warms the ionosphere. The inner core grows 1 millimeter every year. Reconnection surges plasma. Basalt archives polarity. Breathe in this tireless shield. Consider how magnetic pressure balances stellar wind. Remarkably, ions mirror between poles while the geodynamo churns. You are stardust anchored by iron. Reconnection snaps lines. Rest in this melodic, timeless, sentinel, hushed, cosmic sanctuary now. Return now. The iron in your veins mirrors the core's geodynamo. This dipolar shield deflects solar winds while field lines rest. You are stardust, protected by magnetism. Rest deeply. Sleep now. You are home. Good night.